I want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Amanda Regan, and I am the Director of Customer Success here at Swivl. In today's ever-evolving landscape of adaptability isn't just a virtue, it's a necessity. And we are firmly planted in the age of artificial intelligence, where technology is really changing the way we think and learn. In recognition of this transformative era, Swivl has introduced the Adaptability Initiative. Through this groundbreaking initiative, we are forging partnerships with schools and districts like yours to cultivate dynamic learning communities that can transform innovative ideas into actionable strategies. Our focus is equipping educators like yourselves with the essential skills to thrive, while embracing adaptability needed to conquer any new challenges that might come our way. A vital component of this adaptability initiative is our collaboration with thought leaders like Mary Howard. Her insights and expertise are vital, and so we've made it our mission to make this accessible to everyone. As an added bonus for those who attend or view the webinar presented in our e-learning module at the end of the week, we are pleased to offer a certificate of attendance for professional development hours. This certificate is accessed on our website, and it is another demonstration of our commitment to supporting your ongoing growth and development. I want to thank you again for joining us on this journey of adaptability and transformation. Together, we can shape the future of education and empower our communities for success in this ever-evolving world. We will be reaching out to explore how we can work towards this goal together. Additionally, following this webinar, I'm going to do a demonstration of Reflectivity, which is our software that shows you how easy it is to build skills and develop a powerful ally around your communities on your educational journey. For those eager to learn more about our Adaptability Initiative or Reflectivity, you can visit our website. Now I want to introduce our presenter. Mary Howard is a nationally board certified 6th grade ELA and science teacher from Grand Island, New York, and has found success using digital tools that encourage critical thinking, collaboration, and cultivate a lifelong passion for learning. Mary has spent the last 10 years presenting at dozens of technology conferences across New York State and has become a globally recognized speaker on the topics of augmented reality and virtual reality in the classroom. Mary is a New York State master teacher, has published numerous EdTech articles, and has received many awards. She is the author of the book, Artificial Intelligence to Streamline Your Teacher Life, the ChatGPT Guide for Educators. Mary, you're up. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes. And for those that aren't familiar where Grand Island is, I like to refer to it as a pork chop shaped island that is just between Niagara Falls and Buffalo, New York. So that is my little neck of the woods. And indeed, I teach 6th grade there, and science and ELA are my subject areas. But being a tech fan, I started to dive into ChatGPT and artificial intelligence when it first came out back in December. And my first thought when I discovered this tool wasn't to be scared, but rather it was how exciting it was. I thought this is a golden opportunity for educators. We were looking at a time period when teacher sustainability is actually still quite an issue. There's a great deal of teacher burnout. And the more I played with the tool, the more I realized how much potential it has to maybe make a difference for teachers. So what we're looking at here today is ChatGPT, and we're going to look at it through the lens of an educator and how it can support them doing their jobs. We aren't going to talk so much about looking at it from the side of student use. I'm going to dabble in it a little bit and talk about it. But I know when it first came out, there was a lot of fear in education, and a lot of people were worried about how this is going to impact us in the classroom. And the more I discover, the more I play with it, and the more I use it in my classroom, I've realized that that's actually a positive as well. So we'll look at that a little bit too. So the goals for our little session here today, for those that are brand new to ChatGPT, we're going to look at exactly what it is, how you can access it, and how you can get on it. We're going to talk about the limitations that the tool has. We won't spend a lot of time logging in, but I want to show people how to do it in case they're curious and maybe after the session can give that a try. And then the meat of the session really is going to be the content, like what you can get out of ChatGPT and how it can support you in your teacher life and what you're doing as an educator. And so it's perfectly acceptable for all content areas. And along the way, I'll monitor the chat. If you have any questions or any curiosities as I'm going along, don't be shy. Feel free to ask your question. We can certainly address any curiosities that you have along the way. So we'll start from the beginning. What is ChatGPT? People might not be familiar with the tool itself. I'd be surprised at this point because it seems like it's everywhere. It seems like everybody's talking about generative AI, and ChatGPT is kind of at the heart of a lot of it. And it's a chat bot, essentially. It was trained to engage in almost like conversation, and it's a natural dialogue between the prompt bar and the AI behind the scenes. So you ask it questions and it responds. And I always say anything you can do, it can do better. Well, I'm not sure better. I don't think any of our jobs as teachers are at risk. However, it can definitely uplift you and give you support in what you're doing as a teacher. And so for that part, maybe it is a little bit better in that regard. So ChatGPT, to caution those users, does have some certain limitations. It's not the be all and end all, and it's definitely not the end all of education. But when you're using ChatGPT and when you start prompting and interacting with the bot, there's certain things you need to keep in mind. So first of all, you always want to review, modify, and adapt any content that you get out of ChatGPT. Sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes it's just making things up. So you really have to be careful when you're prompting and using the material it creates. Remember that the material is created without a conscience. It's possible, even though it's trained not to produce harmful content, sometimes harmful instructions or biased content might sneak in there, but it is very mindful of that. In fact, I had an example just the other day. I was creating these fake receipts for an inferring activity with my students, and I asked it to create some fake receipts, and it told me that was unethical. So I found that very interesting, that it thought it was unethical. So I love this poll. This is really helpful seeing how we've got kind of a wide range of use here. We've got many people are comfortable with ChatGPT, some aren't. So I do think we've got a little bit for everyone along the way today. But again, with these limitations, it is important to keep in mind, ChatGPT can't access the current internet. If you were using the free version of ChatGPT, it was shut down from the internet in 2021, so the access there is limited. There are plugins in the ChatGPT Plus that can access the internet. If we get an opportunity, we'll talk a little bit about the plugins and how they can support you. So moving on, if you are brand new, and we do have some brand new users out there, if you are brand new, the best way to access ChatGPT, there really are three main choices. I use it on my desktop computer, and the link in this presentation will provide you with access, but it's just ChatGPT, and it might look strange when you Google ChatGPT because there seems to be a lot of possibilities. But on the desktop, you can Google ChatGPT and you'll get it through OpenAI. There is an iOS app, and there's more recently an Android app available. And what I really like about the apps is the app talks to your main account with ChatGPT. So whatever you're doing on the iOS or the Android app is also going to show up on your desktop. So if you find something on your phone when you're traveling around, it'll be there when you get back to your desktop. So they do speak. What you have to keep in mind is that you do have to build an account to access ChatGPT. They do offer single sign-in with Google, Microsoft, and Apple, and you can log in with your email address. It may ask for a little bit of information. Keeping that in mind, privacy is always a concern when you're dealing with any internet access tool. So you're going to want to be familiar with the privacy. Anything you put into the tool is being used. Your usage data is being collected, device information, analytics. You are part of the training of the tool. This tool is continuing to grow and learn as time goes on. And when you're using it, you're contributing to its learning and its understanding. So that information, you just want to be cautious with that. And then as an educator, if you're working with ChatGPT with any students under the age of 13, you're definitely going to want to be careful with their information and make sure that they're not putting any information into ChatGPT. Probably want to avoid it. So having said all of that, ChatGPT, it's a prompting tool and it thrives on the prompt that you give it. And it's going to respond best when you're being very thorough and accurate with your prompts. There are many different prompting strategies out there. And quite honestly, you can get good stuff out of ChatGPT even with poor prompts. But you're going to get better information with a better prompt. Garbage in and garbage out, right? The better you put into the bot, the better information you're going to get back. So I recommend identifying the perspective when you're first working with the bot. It's going to very quickly realize the level of the material that you want back from it. ChatGPT by now knows that I'm a 6th grade teacher because every time I ask it a question, it's giving me back information at that level. So give it a perspective, tell it what you want it to act like or at what level you're interacting with it. You can even get it to pretend to be other people. You can get it to pretend to be Socrates, or you can get it to write at a lower level for you if you're a lower level educator. So start with perspective. Step 2, establish the task. Tell it what it is you want it to do. We're going to look at about 7 really great tasks that it can help you with as teachers. 3 of them are here. You can have it write a rubric for you. So you're going to have it act like a 6th grade teacher, then write a rubric. So you're telling it the task. You can have it pretend it's Socrates and then recite something, or you can have it write at a 3rd grade level and create a passage. So you're starting with perspective, continuing with a task you're asking it to do, and then finally you want to identify the topic. What is it that it's writing about? So for my 6th grade teacher that needs a rubric, it's going to be for a poster project. For my Socrates, it's going to recite a poem about matter. And then for my 3rd grade teacher, it's going to write that reading passage about the Erie Canal. So I found that this three-prong prompting strategy really does help return quality information out of ChatGPT. Having said that, sometimes it's going to give you back something that you can't use. And if that's the case, continue with a follow-up prompt, because what ChatGPT does for any feed that you're working on with ChatGPT, any chat that you're in, any follow-up prompts are going to maintain that perspective and they're going to maintain the same style. And so it already knows that you're looking for information at a 6th grade or a 3rd grade level, and it'll just continue to modify that information as the chat continues. So follow-up prompts are fine and necessary a lot of the time. Things that you might want to avoid when you're prompting ChatGPT are slang, colloquial phrases, idioms, prompts that have too much in them. I'm guilty of that sometimes. I'm piling information in there in the prompt and that it doesn't understand what it is that I want. If you have multiple steps that you need to have it do, start small and then keep building from there. So there are some strategies that you're going to want to avoid as well. And like I said before, garbage in, garbage out, right? You want a good prompt to get good information, but the reality is sometimes you put good stuff in and it still gives you maybe things that aren't as useful as you'd like. So the cautionary tale with that is when you're getting information out of ChatGPT, make sure you're proofreading it. Make sure you adapt it to your needs and make sure you modify it as necessary. We can't just copy and paste right out of ChatGPT. Just as we tell our students, we want to make sure that it's being proofread and it is appropriate. So what I want to look at with the time that we have, and we're just going to take a quick peek at the live ChatGPT for those that haven't seen it. I've got 19% of the people in the audience look like they've never even really seen ChatGPT. So I want us to take a quick look at the tool. So this is my ChatGPT. This is actually a prompt that I was just working on right before our session today, but it's very, very easy to use and very user-friendly. So when you want to start a chat, you can click on New Chat, and then down at the bottom is the prompt bar. So we can act like that 6th grade teacher and we can have it and create a rubric. I mean, I'm going to be specific. I want an analytical rubric for a poster project on planets. Let's see what it gives us. This is awfully risky because you never know if it's going to give me exactly what I want. So I'm hoping, and I'd say this is a pretty good start. I'm getting myself a detailed analytical rubric that will help me score a planet project for students. And to be honest with you, when I was first dabbling with ChatGPT, this was my hook. This was the thing that as a teacher I went, holy cow, this really can help me. And from there, I started to discover all of the different things that it can do. So what you probably noticed was I did my chat in the chat bar. This chat has now been stored over here. And so historically, these are going to be all the chats that I've had with ChatGPT. And what's really neat about it is if you jump into a previous chat that you did, remembers the perspective that you had with ChatGPT, and it remembers what it talked about. And we can go back weeks later and modify previous content that we retrieved. Right now, we're looking at those receipts that I was talking about earlier that ChatGPT created for my students for an inferring project. So that's a quick glance at ChatGPT. But I think what's going to be more helpful for most of us is, what kinds of things can it do? That's kind of what I covered a lot of in the book. It's like, what can it do for me? And so I want to look at a few really helpful things that you can find in ChatGPT to support you as an educator. The book is kind of organized based on Harvey Silver's thoughtful classroom. It's this theory that educators, we know we do a billion things, but Harvey Silver's thoughtful classroom kind of broke it down into 4 categories. You know, we have organizational things we do as teachers. We have things related to rules and procedures. Engagement's a really critical thing in a classroom, especially when you're a 6th grade teacher like me. And a culture of thinking and learning, we want to support that as educators. And so I tried to break the book down into chapters that would focus on how ChatGPT can support these 4 pillars of education. And so I'm going to share with you now 7 examples of things that it can do. This is by no means comprehensive. It can do thousands of things, but these were 7 useful things that I discovered it can do to support any educator in any content area. So the first thing is lesson planning. The prompt is on the left side of the screen. It says, act like a middle school social studies teacher and write a lesson plan on the Bill of Rights. Again, I was astounded when I put a prompt like that in and got back a lesson plan from top to bottom. You can alter your prompts and say, not only do I want a lesson plan, but I'd like some stations instead of just direct instruction. Well, it will do that. You can follow up and say, what material should I put in these stations? It'll give you that too. So the lesson planning, again, blew me away when I first discovered it can just write a complete lesson top to bottom. Second suggestion. You're writing a lesson plan, and let's say it is for an observation or it is for something that you need to know specifically what standards it's aligned to. Well, it does that too. If your standards are standards that were produced 2021, right? Because it did lose access to the internet after 2021. Fortunately, my standards are next generation science standards, and they were published around that time. So it is able to analyze the prompt that I give it. I was teaching Newton's laws, and I asked it to tell me which next generation standards my lesson was aligned to. So again, I found that really helpful, especially when I was having an observation. I was able to save myself a little bit of time trying to figure out how to articulate the standards I was working with. Okay, so number 3, lists of information. I can't understate this particular skill because this is what I'm almost using every single day, believe it or not. This particular example says act like a teacher and create a list of positive comments to place on a report card. So we got 10 comments. We can follow up and say, can I have 10 more? We can follow up and say, there's too many characters. Can you make those shorter? Maybe you have a character limit. So the list generation happens in so many ways. It can create this numbered list. It can change a numbered list to a bulleted list. It can alphabetize lists. You can put in information. It will organize that list for you and alphabetize it or randomize it or put them in sequential order. So it does so many things with list generation that I started taking it and having it create tables for me of the lists that it's creating. And I could take those tables and I could put them into spreadsheets, and I can do even more things with those lists of information. So its ability to create lists of information is great. And it kind of extends to this next slide here, defining vocabulary. Yes, I know we can use a dictionary, right? We have Google for that. But what's really nice is in this particular example, I was creating a word search. I was creating a crossword puzzle as kind of an activity for early finishers. So I wanted it to just generate some vocabulary related to the topic. So we were doing a mystery. And so I asked it to generate a series of words and definitions related to the mystery genre. What I was able to do is then take that list of words and definitions and pull it into a crossword puzzle generator. And in less than 30 seconds, I had a crossword puzzle with all of these terms and definitions that I could print out and use in my classroom for my early finishers. It was just a huge time saver. It was just so much better than, let's search Google to see if we can find a resource to print, and that one's blocked, or I have to pay for that one. And, it was a really great way to quickly make my own resource. And taking this idea a little bit further, not just vocabulary, but ChatGPT can generate multiple choice questions. It can create true and false questions. It can create fill in the blank questions. It can create all of these things for us. So when we're test building or designing worksheets, it can lift a lot of that load for us too. And so to get this particular list, I was very specific about asking it to place the term in the first column and the definition in the second column of a table. I was then able to use this information in the crossword puzzle generator. And if you're curious, it was just Discovery Education's crisscross generator. That was the tool I used to make the crossword puzzle. Okay. Taking that a little bit further, reading passages and generating questions. So what's really nice is you can actually ask it to generate a passage on your content area suitable for the grade level of the students that you're teaching. You can then follow up and ask it to rewrite that same passage at perhaps a lower level. This is great for our struggling readers. This is great with students of a variety of abilities. It's differentiating our instruction for us in this case. So this one in particular was about states of matter passage that a fourth grade teacher might use. It wrote that passage. And then, of course, what I was also able to do was follow up and ask it for those multiple choice questions to go along with it, or true and false questions, or fill in the blank questions. And then you can also, taking it another step, you can have it reply with that information in table format, and then start pulling those things into something like a Kahoot or a Gimkit or a Quizlet. So if you are someone that likes these interactive sites where you can play games with the kids, you can have the information formatted in such a way that you can pull that right into those games. In the time we have together today, obviously won't be able to go step by step through that process. So I did embed video showing you that process step by step, because this tends to be one people get really excited about. They want to see how to pull this information into a Gimkit or a Kahoot or something. So you'll have access to these slides, and we'll be able to share that video with you. I'm assuming, Amanda, at the end. Awesome. Okay, so that's our fifth thing. So we had 7 things we were going to look at, and then we'll pause and see if people have questions and want to revisit any of these things. So the 6th thing you already saw me do. This was my hook. This was the grading rubric. Create an analytical rubric with 5 performance levels and 5 criteria for a poster project. When you saw my example a few moments ago in ChatGPT, I was very vague. I didn't tell it how many categories or performance levels. The more specific you get, of course, the better you're going to get back. And so this one I was really specific with, and I got these 5 categories. And then on my criteria are the performance levels on the left-hand side, or sorry, the criteria on the left-hand side. So this again is another way to get a really great, useful rubric for your class. Okay, we're getting to the end here of our examples, but by no means is that the end to what ChatGPT can do for you. So generating examples, it's very similar to this idea of generating lists. But this is another one I use nearly every day. It's just I ask it to generate examples for me. And that morning when I get up and I know I'm teaching kinetic energy, and for the life of me, I can't think of anything that can move because I can't move, but I can ask ChatGPT to generate examples of things that can move. And that's what it can do. It can do a little bit of that, morning thinking that maybe you can't do. It can be your brainstorming machine. And if you're not familiar with the cult of pedagogy, this is Jennifer Gonzalez. She wrote a great blog on generating examples and using ChatGPT to generate examples. And that was kind of where I got this idea. And then it just took off as well for me. So this particular one here, I had ChatGPT generate examples of exit tickets for a 4th grade classroom, because I was like, all right, what would we do if we were finishing the class? I need a question that I can ask on this topic. It's great for doing these types of things. I needed examples the other day. Our key word of the day was, I think it was ecstatic. We do like words of the week in my ELA class. And I needed examples of things that make someone ecstatic, and it generated that list. And then I needed a bunch of synonyms for the word ecstatic, and it generated that list for me. So it's really great at just kind of doing the thinking for you when you just maybe can't think. So there really is so much more than it can do. These are different categories of things that it can do, and they're of course included in the back of the book, but ways it can help you organize, ways that it can support vocabulary development, ways that it can interact with your content. And this is kind of interesting because we look at AI and we think of it as being generative. It only generates stuff, but actually you can put stuff into it and then have it generate back, and which is, I think, is really neat. I put in a list of vocabulary terms the other day, and it spewed back to me definitions for all of those vocabulary words, and then it sorted them and organized them for me. So I like to think of it as more than generative. I almost like to think of it as being evaluative. You can put paragraphs into it, maybe even student work, and have it come up with suggestions for ways students can improve their work. And then the last one over here, ChatGPT can support students with special needs. There's a lot of skills that it has that can support you and special education teachers in modifying materials for special ed students. So those are some examples you'll also want to take a look at. So there's so much that you can see and you can do. Now, I said at the beginning I wanted to talk briefly about student use and address academic integrity on both sides, because we as teachers are going to be using this tool, and it's come to understand, I think students are probably going to also find this tool. So these are two little handouts that might help remind students as well as teachers the do's and don'ts of working with artificial intelligence, not just ChatGPT, but any kind of artificial intelligence. And so I encourage you to check these out because I think they're good guidelines for all of us. You know, we don't want to claim work that's generated by ChatGPT as our own. You know, be forthright about it. Don't copy it directly. And if it's writing materials, check those materials over, especially reading passages, just to make sure, you know, it has the right voice. A lot of times ChatGPT has a very AI voice, I call it. And teachers are going to be able to pick up the AI voice when students are using it, and so are your colleagues. So those are some things to consider. So these are printable, downloadable documents for people who would like to share those documents with either their staff or their students. So I leave you with a thought. I leave you with the big AI debate. I'm not going to be able to answer the AI debate, but it really is an interesting thought. And this was actually a video that was generated by Midjourney. It is an artificial intelligence tool that's more of an art-based tool. And it emulates a conversation that Bill Gates might have with Socrates, were they to ever encounter one another. And they both have a really unique perspective on AI. And so Bill Gates, as to be expected, has this thought that AI is going to be the magnifying glass that will help us see more clearly and help us make better decisions. And as part of that, it will support more discourse and conversation. And I kind of like that. I think about in my classroom, you know, my classroom needs to turn into a place of more reflection and discourse than, you know, just responding to things. And so I like his perspective. Yet I think Socrates has a good point here. You know, we think about AI and are we and our students going to become complacent? You know, do we need to do and wrestle with these mundane tasks just as a tree to grow strong needs to be buffeted by the wind a bit? So I'm going to just leave you with that thought to think about, because I don't know if we have the answers, and I don't think we will have the answers for quite some time. So have a little bit of time. I would love to answer questions or show any examples if people are curious. So I'll open it up to you in the chat. I see there's been a few messages along the way, but is there anyone that has a specific question?
There were some questions in there. We have Nicole who asked, are you using the free version of ChatGPT? I'm curious if you want to discuss like the differences between the two.
Yeah. I kind of rushed through that a little bit, just trying to be mindful of the time. But what we have is the free version of ChatGPT is ChatGPT 3.0. And everything I showed and shared can be done with the free version of ChatGPT. There's no, you know, reason that you need to buy the other version, which is referred to as ChatGPT Plus. That is $20 a month. And ChatGPT Plus gives you access to ChatGPT 3.5 and the most recent iteration, which is 4.0. The ChatGPT 4.0 iteration has something known as plugins added onto it. And what the plugins do, I like to think of them as almost like a portal to a specific part of the internet. My favorite plugin is Wolfram Alpha. And so when I'm asking questions of ChatGPT 4.0 and I use the Wolfram Alpha plugin, it gives me a portal to that particular website. And suddenly I'm getting back answers that are way more better when it comes to mathematical problems, or can actually discuss data and information from the internet that's more current. So that's the general difference between the three.
That's helpful. Kevin has another question has a question as well. Vince, can you unmute Kevin so he can ask the question? And then Julia also has a question.
Yeah, I see it. Yep.
Thanks.
For sure.
Well, I think Kevin's question, if I can read it, is, can we build educational software through ChatGPT?
People are doing that. And again, it's a little above my pay grade. From what I understand is, you know, ChatGPT, again, OpenAI is open source platform. And so what we're seeing on the market right now is lots of people are taking, you know, the ChatGPT code, because it is open source, And they are creating all of these really wonderful tools using that exact same base. I'm kind of a grassroots ChatGPT fan. What I've been seeing is, again, all of these great resources that people are coming out with that kind of like almost like bundle the prompting strategies and do them for you and generate the content that you want. And they're very quickly going to become paid for platforms if they aren't already. Kevin, I think I heard you. Are you able to talk now?
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually in the process of building a novel software that actually uses sense blended connection to customize teaching. And so I'm looking to potentially use ChatGPT to help code the process. I'm currently using mainly Python and Tkinter, but I'm looking to maybe help the process because there is no software quite doing exactly what I'm building it for.
You definitely have some exciting opportunities out there, for developers and a great market of teachers that really need tools. So it's a good plan for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I again, might be a little bit above my knowledge base. So. And I saw another question. Oh, sorry, Amanda.
I was just going to say, Julia has a question also.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. Julia, I've been seeing there's a lot of conversation about the privacy concerns at IT. Some schools first discovered ChatGPT and they were like, let's shut it down, right? Like, we can't have this. And so they opted for that approach. The privacy concerns when it comes to students, I talked about that a little bit because it is using information, it is using student data, and in New York State, where I'm from, we have a very, very aggressive, student data and privacy policy, and I'm sure many other states do as well. So there are concerns in that regard. So, the plugins really, again, the way I describe the plugins is it's more like, it feels like a one-way hose. It's just like ChatGPT is pulling that information from a website that we probably would have used anyway. And another impression I'm getting from the plugins is it's just another way for that website to get the traffic to them anyway. It's almost like a mini advertiser. They're like, oh, I'm going to align myself with ChatGPT and people are going to find out about my website. But beyond that, I haven't had conversations with a lot of IT departments precisely about what they're seeing in this regard. I don't know if that answers your question.
All right. And then Marissa had a question about the plugins, but I think she was looking for more information about how the plugins work or if you're using them and what they're used for.
Well, if I don't know if Marissa's still here, but it might not be a bad idea to quickly show people the plugins if people are curious about them, because I know this is something more people are wanting to know about because it's a relatively new thing. Hi, Marissa. Let me show you really quickly what I like about the plugins. Again, ChatGPT 4 is going to be where you'll find the plugins. And I'm just going to show the Wolfram Alpha one because that happens to be the one I've been using the most in my position as a sixth grade teacher. If I can get it to activate for me. Oh, you can only have 3 plugins. I got to take one off. Okay, we're going to activate Wolfram. And so the best example I can use with the plugin is a math example. Math doesn't get enough attention. But if I ask ChatGPT 3.5 to calculate a kinetic energy problem for me, it's about all the math I can do as a science teacher is kinetic energy. So let's calculate the kinetic energy of a train moving at 20 meters per second, but we need a weight on that train. Let's just say it's a 300 kilogram train. And what tends to happen with ChatGPT, especially ChatGPT 3.0, is the math is very linear. And if, it's a language model, so it's responding in a linear fashion. You can see that the multiplication symbol is an asterisk. You can see, that the superscript just has a caret showing the 2. This isn't very pretty math. This isn't very helpful to teachers. But if I ask the same question about kinetic energy to ChatGPT 4 with that plugin activated, let me make sure I still have it activated before I do it. Okay, it turned off. So I got to have it activated. If I ask that exact same question, what you get, again, now ChatGPT is talking to Wolfram Alpha that just happens to be a website. It's very good at math. And as it processes this question, what I'm going to get back is some much prettier math. Okay, it's showing me the formula in a way that I like. Kinetic energy equals 1/2 mass times velocity squared. And so this is something that's much more usable for teachers. You can even follow up with a question step by step, show the students how to solve the problem. This is just one real quick example of how those plugins work. How do you get the plugins? Again, it depends on which version of ChatGPT you're using. You want to go to GPT-4, and then the plugins, you're going to have this little spot that says plugins, and then you get this whole entire list and you start wading through it. So it should be up here at the top. Okay.
All right.
So in a little closing thought, and if not, reach out. I'm certainly, happy to help out. In a little closing thought, I asked ChatGPT to say thank you to you all. Of course. What better way to thank everybody for coming? So there's a little thank you note from ChatGPT, but from myself as well. So I do thank all of you for coming and tuning in. I hope this was helpful.
Mary, thank you so much for today's session and teaching us more about how ChatGPT can be used in our classrooms. As we progress throughout our work lives, let's remember that adaptability is the key to navigating this fast evolution of AI. We here at Swivl are committed to standing by your side and providing the resources, tools, and expertise needed to create resilient learning communities. Next week, on October 10th, we have Matt Winters talking about curating curiosity. I'd love to see you guys again, and if you would like to invite a friend, we'd be happy to have them as well. To partner with us and learn more about the Adaptability Initiative, please visit our website. And now I am going to run through a demo of how you can use reflectivity to curate more skills about ChatGPT. Let me give a quick, oops, I hit the wrong button. Apparently I don't know how to screen share anymore. All right, here we are. Okay, so this is reflectivity. When you go into reflectivity, when you first sign in, what you're going to see here is this inspiration board. So on this inspiration board, I see using ChatGPT to create writing prompts. So I want to join that skill. That's exactly what I want to do. So I can see I have other colleagues that have already started working on this. So I'm going to go ahead and join them. And then I can see everyone in my organization who is using ChatGPT to create writing prompts, or at least working on improving their skills in that area. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to click to figure out what progress I want to make and share into this. So in the future, in about a month, I really want to be more informed about writing these prompts. And in order to build momentum and take action on this activity, I'm going to read an article. I'm one of those people that really likes to get started through reading. That's the way I learn best. So I'm going to continue with that. And then I come back here to using ChatGPT and seeing what everybody else is doing. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to go out and I'm going to read that article. In this instance, I'm actually going to probably read Mary's book. So I want to check back in and update my progress on that. In about a week, I'll have gotten a notification about reminding us to check in. But if I want to come back and just check in, that's absolutely okay once I've finished the book. So it's going to ask me how it's going. It's going to ask for my feelings on how I did there. I am motivated after reading her book to keep learning. So I feel motivated. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a bit of a deeper reflection. I've already filled this out. So I read Mary's book and it helped me figure out easy ways to use ChatGPT to be more efficient. So I have this reflection and I am going to go to next. I'm going to also share that, but my next step, I believe in this journey towards using ChatGPT that I'm going to use is I'm going to join a learning community. I'm sure Mary has access and on Twitter, there's a lot of teacher communities that are around how to use ChatGPT. So I'm going to probably join one of those and then I'm going to go ahead and complete that. You can see that it's letting all of my colleagues know exactly what I'm doing and I can have a conversation with them about what it is that they're doing. Over here in this corner, you can see that I published my reflection and that there were a few people that wanted to interact with me about that. So I shared about my book. They asked some exciting questions and I could respond. I'm not going to right now. I'm just going to close that out. And that's really the first week of use on reflectivity. It just helps you to reflect and grow and take action and collaborate on developing new skills with your colleagues. If you want to learn more, you can scan this, or we are going to reach out, like I said, and invite you to join us in our learning journey in becoming more adaptable.